We are here with the first episode of the Unnamed Podcast. This was a concept me and my fellow co-founder, co-guest, co-whatever came up with. We thought it'd be a fun thing to talk about industry stuff and products, and we're just going to see how it goes. This might not even be the first episode. This is the first, but this might not be the first one that goes live. So for those who aren't aware, I'm Shane Smith from Stacked, and with me I have the man himself. You can throw your name out there.
San Diego Sam, random industry legend, always just trying to make the industry a better place. And as Shane mentioned, we've talked about this idea of having a podcast. I even had some fun doing a podcast myself, and it's always fun to see each other at shows and talk about industry updates. But we're both very busy and we're both always traveling, so we decided to do two guys make a podcast and do these short 10-20 minute updates about the industry, about products we like, trends, and just kind of some fun debates, and just two guys having fun about supplements. That's what we're doing, right, Shane?
I think later we can incorporate a question. I think it would be good for someone to ask something, not how much protein do you have per day type shit, maybe something more like, I don't know, like how do you make a protein powder, blah, some more intricate, I guess, businessy stuff, although that's not common.
We'll build a structure eventually, but right now it's just two guys, one pod, having a good time. That's all I know right now. That's what I signed up for today.
So our first topic that I think is a good one to start on with, and this is something that will probably continue on, I guess, for at least another year or so, is the launch of the Bucked Up sparkling protein drink. Now you tried it, it debuted at the Arnold, and they had a TikTok exclusive launch, and this was kind of a big launch because it comes hot off the heels of just the clear protein powder rise. Like over the last couple of years, it's become I think it's not a trend anymore. I think it's a subcategory, clear protein, and then now we've got clear protein, like carbonated clear protein drink, which I think is the catch here. And so you tried it. What did you think of it? Like compared to your standard, compared to any real protein RTD?
Well, I think talking about the market trend, like you said, you had Seek who came out with the clear protein that really kind of put it on the map as a brand and as a category. Other brands followed, and it kind of led to more visibility of that category. What Bucked Up did by putting it into a carbonated drink, which I have tried all the flavors. I was lucky enough to be in Utah to actually try it with them right before the Arnold launch and everything, and I was so impressed. To me, it's really great to see how brands will push innovation and pioneering new types of categories, like what Seek did for the industry, as well as what Bucked Up's doing in the carbonated version. I'm a huge carbonated fan myself, whether it's energy drinks or sparkling waters or seltzer waters. Like the bubble effect is so amazing. So having that in a protein format is so interesting, and in terms of flavors and systems, it's incredible. Like it's best in market and it's new in market, and I'm very satisfied for the direction of where this started, and I can't wait to see where it goes.
Wait, hold on a second. So you like the soda sparkling water? Is that what you said?
Oh yeah, like for me, carbonated sparkling of anything, whether it be like a flavored sparkling water, whether it be an energy drink, anything carbonated. Like I have carbonated drinks all throughout the day. It's just something that I'm like addicted to, for sure.
But the water tastes like piss. Like the water version, like carbonated water it's distinctive. I love soda. I love energy drinks. But that gas water, that soda water tastes really bad.
There's a debate between flavored carbonated water versus like soda, right? They're different categories. Yeah. And then there's also like sparkling water, which is non-flavored versions of it. And I go through all different types of brands and products, even things outside of sports nutrition or active nutrition, just to me, the R&D and the flavor systems and trying different products, like I'm the consumer. If I go into the market or I see anything, I'm going to buy it just to try it because I just love that aspect of it. But You're right in terms of that from a personal standpoint. Certain flavors in a carbonated drink do not match a soda, but like regular carbonated and unflavored, I do enjoy. So
So
yeah.
when you go to Germany or Europe and the default is gas water, as they say, or like that's what you get unless you ask for still water, do
Yeah.
you leave it as the default?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a man of
Oh,
culture.
oh my God. That
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
oh,
I
I didn't,
I can do
I
it. I
didn't
can
know
do it
this
pretty
about
well.
you.
Yeah,
I didn't,
that's one of the cool things about like traveling and going all around the world and working with different brands and seeing different cultures. Like outside of the supplement space, personally wise, food is actually my passion. I love
yeah.
foods. I love going to restaurants. I like trying different cuisines. And so, yeah, give it a shot. Sometimes I don't like things, but majority of the time, I'm pretty open minded to it.
So back to the topic. Now that
Back, yeah, business.
we've ruined the sparkling water,
It's okay.
the bucked up drink. Like I don't know if it's just because I've always had the chocolate, the vanilla. Like it's hard to say, and the fruit flavors back in the day were pretty shit. Like early 2010s, they had them, but they just weren't great. Could you see yourself if you had to pick, like whether it's bucked up's one or just? I guess you already know the answer to this because you just said you love the soda carbonation. So this is probably the dream product. You would pick this over a chocolate milkshake protein, right? I imagine.
I think there's different consumers and a different like purpose of like when you're gonna have the product, right? Or what the
Yeah.
situation is. So like, I mean, RTD at first starting with flavor systems, you're right. They've improved as a category across all powders and all types of RTDs. So they're already better. They continuously improve, but in terms of like where clear, because I when I judge things, I judge them within its own category. So, for example, the bucked up RTD is within the clear whey category, and
Yeah.
for being a carbonated clear whey, it's the best thing I've ever tried in market for that specific category. Now, if you compare apples to oranges, and you're comparing a completely milk protein RTD and a completely different texture and a different thing, yeah, you could pick apart as a consumer pros and cons of each of them. But for what they are and what they've done to the marketplace, that's what I appreciate for it. But if I'm going to have an option of like which one to pick, it depends on the situation, whether it's like right after the gym or if it's just like let's say like a road trip. Like to be honest, if I'm driving,
You know
I'm gonna
what?
have a
Yeah.
carbonated. I would actually prefer to have the bucked up one. If I'm going to have something like maybe right before bed, maybe I'm gonna have more of the milky one or something like that on a regular format. So it depends, honestly. So I just like the idea that there's more options now.
Yeah, I actually, now that you mention it, because the energy drink, you don't the format and the style encourages you to like sip on it, as they say, right? You would grab it, you would drink it. Whereas a protein shake, the classics say you pound a protein shake, right? You get it. They give even when you get a smoothie, you mix it up. You very rarely spend much time consuming it. No one's slowly sipping on a protein shake for 30 minutes, but you would do that with a carbonated drink. So I actually think you might
Mhm.
have me on that one. If I was on a road trip and I was thirsty and that was there, I might swap out that chocolate milkshake for a carbonated bucked up. I think you might have had
And
me on
see
that
it
one.
from that perspective, right? It's basically the format of usage, not necessarily like
It
what is
is, yeah,
better. Because you're right. I would, if it's a regular RTD or if it's a shake, yeah, you would drink it quickly and basically within a minute it's gone. But
yeah.
if you have the option with carbonation, number one, you typically are not trying to pound a carbonation drink because then you'll have, the gases. However, if you sip on it and over the course of, let's say, 5, 10, or 15 minutes, you're drinking it and it's cold, I don't know. That sounds like a great, enjoyable experience for me as
I
a
think you're right.
consumer. Yeah.
I think you might be onto something there. I think I like the idea. I've always protein shake for me is function, right? It's post workout. If I don't have time, it's never a lifestyle choice in terms of protein consumption. So I think it'd be interesting to see how that goes. But then that leads us also into the follow-up topic, which we were going to talk about, was flavors. And I think they did a pretty good job. Obviously, it was clear. They had a candy one in there. I think it was the banana one, which was my favorite, to be honest. And I found that the ones that were more complex, like the ones that had two angles, not just like a straight, I can't remember the one that was straight. Like it had more tastes to cover up somewhat of like that signature clear kind of feel. But I mean, hence what I was going into. How well do you think these kind of clear flavors translate to other markets around the world? Not necessarily even just this, but we could branch out into other flavors. As you, a man of the world, knows, the different flavors, different parts of the world are completely different things.
Absolutely. I was thinking that segue as we were talking about the flavors and what the clear kind of offers in the, let's call it the non-traditional route, not just the chocolate, the vanilla, and the strawberry, is that the clears work very well with fruit flavors. And in terms of the flavor systems, yes, I've sampled all of Bucked Up's flavors from that RTD. So I also agree with you that from a consumer standpoint, that the mixed flavors had where you could either have it on the front end or the back end, and it would help mask the flavor a little bit better into the just single straight flavor. As you mentioned, the flavor systems globally change, the demographics change. Globally for protein, chocolate, no matter what, is typically always a top seller as a category. It's like the global acceptance. But after that, what ends up happening that I've noticed is that in different marketplaces, the more American style flavor systems, which typically are candies and cereals and on the sweeter notes, they are not as adopted in certain marketplaces where they do care more about the fruity, natural, more single flavors or mixed flavors of natural ingredients, such as like a tropical punch or a pineapple, mango, or passion fruit plus, another flavor system. That's what translates and does well that I've noticed in different marketplaces. So I think that by providing consumers another alternative and not just having the standard traditional RTD flavors, it's great, because the more that we can make this industry grow from a innovation standpoint and an option standpoint, creates more competition. The more competition in this market means better products for the consumers. And that is what I'm such an advocate about in today's marketplace.
Yeah, the one I like when I was in I lived in Europe for a couple of years, and I remember going to a supermarket and I asked where the peanut butter was, and they didn't have any. And I was like, "This is a supermarket. Like maybe it's lost in translation." I was in the Czech Republic at the time. Shitloads of cheese, right? You could like cheese as far as the eye could see. It was like as much as you would find meat at the supermarket, there was that in cheese. It was crazy, but no peanut butter. And I thought that I was confused, like maybe I was asking for the wrong thing. I went to the spreads aisle. It was like obviously Nutella, the hazelnut chocolates, but no peanut butter. And I remember around that time, you started to see, because the outright bar was coming out or making its name. It was peanut butter based, but it didn't seem to resonate that well European, because that peanut butter nostalgia, I guess, like we grew up on it. It was a core part of, I guess, our daily routine, and whether it was on a sandwich or whether it was just like some other snack that had that flavor, it's always there. But then in Europe, it's just not there. And it's really weird to experience a situation where you go, hey, you launch a protein powder, it's chocolate, cookies, vanilla, and peanut butter, right? And to not only for it to not even be present, like you didn't even have a selection that was small, it just was not there. That's how low on the totem pole it was there. And like you said, you get that in South America or in Asia and even other parts of you. It's just crazy that flavors that are so core in obviously supplements in the US just don't necessarily translate. In contrast to that, though, and you probably better speak on this pretty well, fruity flavors seems to translate more equally than, like I said, chocolate drops off. You don't really get vanillas and peanut butters and cookies, but fruit punch, blue raspberry, mango. What's the other ones we got? Blue watermelon. These all seem to translate universally. Because I was wondering if you had any insight on, do the menus or the variety of flavors change all that much for a pre-workout? Obviously, somewhere like your specialty in Japan, like, do they change that much compared to how much they change for protein powder? Like, I haven't seen as much of a difference. Like, fruit seems to be more of a broader appeal than your decadent stuff, I guess.
Absolutely. I was surprised, as I've been in the international market for almost 10 years now, and how different it is from being in the US domestic side of flavors and what sells and what are the top flavor systems, as it does not translate overseas. And in Japan, there's a couple brands I'll mention really quick, which one is Lift, and another one is called Savas. Those are protein brands. And if you go and you look at their portfolio offering, you'll notice that all the flavors are different, like completely different than what United States offers, meaning that they are mostly in the fruit flavor section, or they're in like the matcha and chocolate or tea section in categories. And that wouldn't necessarily translate well in the United States either. So even when it comes to, let's say, BCAAs, EAAs, intra-workouts, pre-workouts, any of those categories, we notice that those trends on the grape flavor, the lemon flavor, the mango flavor, the watermelon flavor, the apple flavor, all those single flavors, they are the top selling, where if you do translate it in certain parts of domestic, whether it's like FDM, like, yeah, grape and orange and these things do sell well, but typically they're not your go-to strongest flavor systems as a brand domestically, where it'll be more of like the candy flavors or the other stuff. Exactly. So it's pretty interesting. And I think that just your experience, just to talk on it about the peanut butter situation, I felt it was really strange when I went to Japan the first time, and there was no other energy drinks, none. And the caffeine levels were very low. And at this point, I'm an avid caffeine drinker, and I go and I look, in the caffeine levels, there was nothing at the time of 200 milligrams of any brand. And there was only
like 50, like it was some shit thing like that, right?
30s. There was nothing even at 100 milligrams. I think it was, at that time, was maybe like 30 milligrams of caffeine, and then like a full serving would be like 60.
Because they have the short like coffee can, right? Like the really extra short things. If I remember, they're half-sized cans.
They have those as coffee cans, but from energy drinks perspective, you only have Red Bull and Monster, and there wasn't even at the time, a local Japanese brand. There was no, like, at the time, Bang or Celsius or Alon. There's none of that. So it's like, to me, it's interesting how, like, as U.S. consumption is really high in these categories for energy drinks and stuff, and me as a consumer very high in energy drinks, and I'm stuck to the most basics and the essentials of what is available over there. So it has grown since then. There are actually a couple of Japanese brands, and they have pushed the envelope. There is a 200 milligram brand out there that's Japanese, but there's still not an American penetration yet, because it's a very complicated market. But I sympathize with you on your peanut butter story. When you go in looking for peanut butter and you look and you're like, where is it? And they're like,
I mean,
this is what
caffeine and peanut butter, that's the apples, and I could live without peanut butter.
yeah. Caffeine, I don't know. It's tough. Yeah. So
I couldn't function with because if I remember when I went years ago, maybe a decade ago, it was Red Bull and Monster. I didn't think Monster was there, to be honest. I didn't go too deep, but it was Red Bull and it was sugar only. And I was like, oh, God damn it. And it was because I don't drink sugar drinks out of just pure morals. I refuse to touch them, because I'm like, I know you can do better than this. But the annoying part is that they were so small that even if I had it, I had to pound like 3 or 4. It was intense. And Yeah, it's like you said, even the format versus even the flavors. But then I think that mixes in with a whole bunch of things because on the surface we're probably sitting there saying, "Oh, they don't have chocolate and they don't have they don't have peanut butter and stuff like that." But then if you're never presented with such things as like that you would eat, if you're never presented with that sort of situation or that kind of food growing up, it would make sense that that flavor would never even seem appealing whatsoever when peanut butter is a spread. But there will be countries that or cultures that bread or sandwiches or toast aren't a norm, which
Right.
makes complete sense. And then those flavors, same with cereals, like America's known for its cereal aisle. Like that's people go to the country, do some looking around, and you've got to travel down that aisle because it's nothing, no other country like it, really, in terms of variety and size. So it's no wonder the cereal flavors do well. But I don't imagine that translating in maybe in any Asian country. I would think breakfast cereal. I don't recall being a huge favorite. Even Europe, I couldn't imagine like those sorts of Fruit Loops and stuff translating as well as they do in the US. But yeah, it's I think the diversity, that's what makes it fun, right? I think it takes you out of that the bubble of the US and how big that market is, but then you notice there are other giants out there, but just doing it in their own little way, growing their own unique fashion and culture. And again, obviously the Japanese expert, you'd know that. I think that's one of the more, that market's probably one of the more different, or the furthest from the US, at least in terms of taste and profiles and stuff.
Absolutely. One of the things, to bring it back to protein and not go into energy drinks, because that's where that was going, is in Japan, a brand that is not a domestic brand that has done an excellent job in the protein RTD market category is My Protein. My
Yeah,
Protein has launched an RTD in all convenience store formats, and there's more convenience stores in Japan than there is in the United States by a lot. And the consumption rate at convenience stores is very high. So recently, and I saw that you covered that topic, by the way, with the Savas dropping their RTD because they saw the opportunity as well too for protein RTD market. So protein consumption internationally has been growing, especially in Asia too, because it's not so much for the fitness and the bodybuilder side, but because the adoption of protein for the healthy function for elderly, more general population, where it's like more of a lifestyle type of protein, which is
yeah.
how functional foods are growing in the United States, is basically how protein RTDs are just starting in Japan. And that's very new. Like that's not, we had protein RTDs in the US for a while, and now we have massive functional foods as like the fastest growing category in Japan right now. Is now I'm starting to see competition on RTDs in protein. And functional food, I've seen a couple. I've seen some interesting like protein breads, and they have a couple bars and a couple cookies, but it's not as diverse as how the US is pushing the envelope from an R&D perspective of like different formats of this. Because like almost every month I see a different application of a protein snack. And I think that's
Oh
very
yeah,
impressive from over here.
it's a fun time. Well,
Yeah, it's a good time to eat it.
I think for this episode we'll wrap it up there, and then we can continue on. I think we'll have a whole new bunch. We'll have another product, another topic to talk about, but short and sweet. I think that sums it up, and we'll
Yeah,
yeah,
hopefully we
catch
don't
up
get
next.
canceled after this. This is the pilot episode. It would be a shame if this is the last episode. So thank you to everybody who did watch this episode. If you do like it, please tell Shane to do another episode. I told him no matter where we are in the world, we'll jump on a call. The video quality and the call quality might not be perfect, but we'll make it happen. And there's so much things going on, and we love to share. And we're both such passionate people about the industry, and there's a lot to talk about. So until next time, two guys, one pod, working title.